Okay, welcome everybody to NAGLREP Spring Break. We traditionally do our policy summit this time of the year at HRC, but due to circumstances, we couldn't think of a better opportunity to share this time with Judy and Dennis Shepard. Through our longtime partnership with the Matthew Shepard Foundation, we're all familiar with Matt's story, the fact that his death was a watershed moment for our country and the world. He became the face of hate crimes, the namesake of a federal hate crimes prevention act, and his legacy spawned an activist movement that inspired thousands to actively fight to replace hate with understanding, compassion, and acceptance. Judy and Dennis, we don't often get to hear about what propelled you to forward into this work. How are you both able to turn your grief into action?
I'm going to take that one, Jeff. Thank you for asking. When we were still in the hospital, we began to receive many messages, emails, so many emails that it crashed the server at the hospital. Remember, this is 1998, right? So the internet is not really anywhere near what it is today, or the hardware. Phone messages, mail, cards, asking us, Dennis and I, as accepting parents, to please share our story about Matt. Because in '98, families rejecting their loved ones because they happened to be gay was a far bigger problem than it is now. I'm not saying that it's over, but it was a bigger problem then. So yes, of course, we felt we owed that to Matt to support his friends, his peers, his community in any way we could. We were aware that we'd be in the subject of the press for a while. So we wanted to take the opportunity to honor Matt and his peers by doing what we thought he would be doing. So basically it was my grief process. Dennis had to go back to work. So Logan, our other son, and Dennis and I sort of all grieved in our own fashion, which was kind of good news, bad news, right? We grieved in our own way, but we also grieved alone. We just all felt the need to do something for Matt and his friends if we had the opportunity.
A lot of it was we didn't realize.
And Judy, I'm so sorry.
The amount of hate and discontent
I'm sorry, go
out there until this happened to Matt. So that was another little impetus behind it. We were just total babes in the woods, knowing nothing about that. Matt was our son. That's all we knew at that time.
And what you did was,
and Judy and Dennis.
you're just affecting the whole world. You know, you really rose to the occasion, and we all thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yes, and I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry that you guys went through that, and thank you for everything that you're doing. And what do you think it is about Matt specifically that's made his legacy so strong?
I think it was the fact that he was the typical kid next door for everybody. It didn't matter what race, what religion. He was a country kid who liked to hunt and fish, but he was also into theater. He was kind of a klutz at athletics, so he did things that he could do by himself without a team depending on him. He spoke 5 languages, was taking a 6th one when he died. We were living in Saudi Arabia, and he went to school, his last 2 years of high school in Lugano, Switzerland on the Italian border, because there were no schools for Westerners in Saudi Arabia. And he was small, 5'2", 105 pounds, and he had the personality that you just felt good around him. So everybody could see, male or female, it didn't matter. There was something about him that drew you to him, that, hey, that's me, or that's my brother, my sister, or that's my next door neighbor. Everybody could see something about him that they could draw on. And through that, it brought a closeness and a reality that if this could happen to him, this could happen to me or my family or my friends. So I think that whole thing together attracted everybody to him.
And there was something about the story that was unique. There was the iconic location of Laramie, Wyoming, where people think, you know, Wyoming, nobody lives there. Plus, I don't think it hurt the reaction to Matt that he was blonde-haired and blue-eyed. If he'd been a young man of color, it might have been a completely different story.
Or if it had been straight, just another burnt murder.
Yeah, Matt was not the only gay man killed that year,
Yeah.
but Matt's story is the one that hung on. Confluence of events, perhaps. I've heard people in the press say, well, Monica and Bill were getting to be old news in '98, so maybe they were looking for something a little different, completely different. Plus in the press, if it bleeds, it leads. You often don't hear the end of the story. But this time the mainstream press really took it seriously. They didn't make Matt, they didn't blame the victim. They didn't make Matt the reason why he was killed. They told the story in an honest, truthful, professional manner with the correct language. And I think that was kind of a first for the gay community, which is marvelous, really.
And it brought out big awareness, a lot of awareness to the straight community, because like us, they thought the LGBTQ community had all the rights and responsibilities and privileges that the straight community had. And they became allies, and they became very upset. Basically, they were pissed that they found their friends and their family members were not equal, and yet they were expected to have this, pay the same taxes and do all this, but they didn't have the same privileges and rights and responsibilities. And that really woke up the country.
Previous to what happened to Matt, and the press talking about it in a professional manner instead of National Enquirer-esque manner, was their only exposure, the straight community to the gay community, was pride parades and the AIDS pandemic. All of it negative and scary. And they were never given the opportunity really to learn anything. Ignorance is our enemy, and it still is.
Yes, for sure. We definitely all love you here in San Antonio, Texas, and we're sad that we didn't get a chance to see you in person last year, and we can't wait to see and hear from you in person again. And I just would like to say that I made a donation to the Matthew Shepard Foundation this morning, and we'll share the link so that everybody watching can also pitch in if they're able to. And thank you so much for sharing and everything that you're doing. We really appreciate you. And I'm so sorry
Go
about
down and do the river walk with you again.
Yes.
Been down
Yes,
the
a margarita.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you,
We
Jamie.
can't wait. Thank you.
All right, so my name is Coy from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and just wanted to say that in my first theater experience, I got to see a reenactment of what happened to Matt, and it was eye-opening and it was impactful, and I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to give back and to be a part of this panel. And so the mission of the Matthew Shepard Foundation is to amplify Matt's story to inspire individuals, organizations, and communities to embrace the dignity and equality of all people. Your primary goal is to erase hate, but can you tell us how the foundation has evolved over time since it was founded in 1998?
Well, we actually incorporated into a nonprofit on Matt's birthday, December 1st, 1998. Folks have been sending us money in cars, wanting to help with medical bills, but we didn't feel like that was an appropriate use of that money. So we had money, we had the opportunity to maybe make a difference. We had really no idea what that difference might be. We were, as Dennis said, largely ignorant of the situation. We'd been in Saudi for 5 years prior to this. So we set up the nonprofit with the idea we were just going to help young people. We didn't really, I wanted to get into education. We're both teachers, actually. I wanted to get into education, but I had no idea how hard it was going to be to talk about the LGBTQ community in public schools. It was ridiculously difficult, and it still is. It's ridiculous how difficult it is. And it shouldn't be, because if students were allowed to learn about the gay community, how it's contributed throughout history to our civilization, and not just the gay community, but the Latino community, the Black African American community, how much they have all contributed the civilization wasn't built on white folks. Yes, we all contributed. We should all learn how we all contributed. But it was really hard to get into education. So I just started speaking into college audiences and corporations, employee resource groups. I would never go where people were, where I was not invited. I'm not a good debater. I basically cry when I have to argue with somebody, but I'll come back in 10 minutes with a really good answer. But I found if I could just share our story and relate our life to the people in the audience, because the people in the audience were experiencing our life every day. And we recognize our role is really to light the fire, let the choir rehearse. So that's what we do. We talk, storytelling is the way to change hearts and minds. When they named the federal hate crime bill after Matt and James Byrd Jr., it was like, oh yeah, this is why we need to expand existing laws. What happened to Matt and what happened to James Byrd is not covered by current law. So in 2009, greatly expanded, easier to do. A lot of people think that the struggle for gay equality, equity is over. This is not over. In over 50 states, you can still be fired for being gay. Public accommodations are still an issue. So that's why we need the Equality Act to take care of those issues of legal playing field. Equality is not a pie. You know, when we give equality, equal rights to everybody, nobody loses anything. It just makes it better for everybody. We just try to share that discussion with folks, answer their questions, help them deal with their own community issues, encourage them to get involved in their own community issues, and wear something that indicates their intent to erase hate. This is our face mask, available on our website. If you're interested, MatthewShepard.org.
I love that. Thank you. And I do just want to add something that you said earlier, which was Matt, was a, you said blonde, blue-eyed guy, white guy there. When I watched what happened for the first time in the play, I thought, of course, if that could happen to him, what could happen to me? So thank you for continuing the fight.
Right, and Coy, not only that, but in the Laramie Project, if you take out Matt and his sexuality and insert race or religion, it's exactly the same story. Yep. Hate and intolerance.
Yes, thank you.
So Judy and Dennis, I'm Christy Amberzetti from New York City, and I just wanted to thank you for everything you're doing for the fight. As a mom myself, my wife and I have an almost 2-year-old. This is very dear to my heart, and it is a fight that is still going. So thank you for all your work. With that said, I'm sure the challenges of the pandemic have caused the foundation to adjust over the last year. Could you please share some of your recent accomplishments and what the foundation's objectives are for 2021?
Well, yes, the pandemic was definitely a different situation for us. Most of our work was on the road. Dennis and I spent more time in a plane and a hotel than home in the last 10 years since Dennis retired.
And now I'm trapped with her.
Yeah, that's another story. So foundation, we're all working remotely. Of course, we're very small. We only have 7 folks, all working remotely. The office is based in Denver. My staff is amazing, just really amazing. Very professional, very committed, involved in the work as a whole, but in particular, the message they feel that we can share at the foundation. We've been doing Zoom calls with schools, classrooms, employee resource groups. We meet. I'm feeling like a little Zoom overload, which I'm sure everybody is feeling. I'll be glad when we can actually see people again. And everybody laughs at the same joke, and you can hear it. So it's different, but we have managed to keep our doors open. That was one of my big worries, is that all of our revenue was based on our travel. So that was really a big concern, but we managed to hang on. So we're encouraged by the support we get from our followers and stakeholders.
NAGLREP, they've been big supporters.
Oh yeah, NAGLREP.
Can't thank you enough for all you've done to help us spread the word.
Right, all of that has been just an amazing lifeline. Thank you so much. So we're nonprofits are really struggling right now. Well, everybody is struggling right now. Municipalities, everybody is struggling, just trying to figure it out. Luckily, none of the staff or dentistry were actually directly affected by COVID. So we escaped that part of it, but the rest of it has really been challenging, but really no different for us than everybody else.
And I'm
Thank you
sorry
for
you
that.
have a 2-year-old. That must be a real fun time right now when you're trapped like a rat.
It's true. You might hear in the background, the work from home is certainly different. It's fun to see her develop and grow.
We
I'm grateful
remember
for
it
it.
well, and we miss it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how we would have managed homeschooling with Logan 4 years younger than Matt. That would have been super challenging. And kudos to those who are succeeding.
Yeah. Matt was a challenge anyway.
Lots of silver linings, I suppose.
Well, I would like to say that it's such a pleasure that, we're able to support the Matthew Shepard Foundation. We admire so much the work that you do, both in the memory of Matt and for the future of our current generation and generations to come. It is so near and dear to our hearts, of course. And I would like to remind everyone that's watching this and participating that this is a fundraiser. And NAGLREP has done, really, we've been true to our mission. We've been, Judy and Dennis, ever since we met at NGLCC a couple of years ago in Philadelphia, soon after we had invited you to our conference in Palm Springs, which was a great time. I know so many members enjoyed sharing that time with you. We just know that, it's the right fit for us, and, we'll continue to do everything we can to support your mission. So anyone that's watching this, the post includes a link to the Matthew Shepard Foundation website where you can donate directly to the Matthew Shepard Foundation. 100% of the proceeds will go direct to the foundation to support their mission for LGBT equality with education and all of their initiatives. So we hope you can participate. And, one thing we always do at NAGLREP is we discuss our successes. And I would, I'm very proud to say on behalf of this panel, NAGLREP, we donated over $25,000 in 2019 to the Matthew Shepard Foundation. And in 2020, over $35,000 to the Matthew Shepard Foundation. And our commitment is 100%. We just are so thrilled to be able to participate with you and help fund your initiatives. And it really means a lot to us because as housing professionals, the future of home ownership is, and our mission of LGBT equality and fair housing really depends on the climate out there. Fair housing is, it's a balance. I like what Judy said, equality is not a pie. It's not to be rationed out. And I think that's important to today's, climate also, when we talk about equity and things like that, equality is, I think that's the balance of it all. And I know that's just my opinion. It's hard to say that these days, but that's an honest opinion. So with that being said, let's talk about the current climate. Judy and Dennis, you're nationally recognized allies and advocates for the LGBTQ community. Based on your experiences, what are the major challenges facing the civil rights movement today?
Well, the environment, for one thing, the cultural environment is super challenging right now. During the Obama-Biden administration, we were on the road to really making progress in equality and equity, not just for the gay community, but all the marginalized communities. There was a wide acceptance and attempt to understand all the marginalized communities, encouraged by the administration. At the end of the Obama-Biden administration, we had a completely different kind of administration who basically pushed civil rights as a whole to the side and encouraged all of the things we've been fighting against since Matt passed. Hate language, hate crimes skyrocketed. There was an encouragement, a good on you, good going guy who, would go after a minority, any of the marginalized, any of them. And it's been super challenging to deal with that because we had no support from the federal government, and those kinds of messages tend to trickle down, unlike some economy messages, but they did trickle down. People tend to emulate what they see at the top, and it's just been really hard the last 4 years.
And now you see the states, you have some 360 bills to again push down marginalized communities, from voting to suppression for the trans athletes. And now you see in Texas where they want to try and pass a bill that says that if your child is trying to go through transition, we want to take that child away because of child abuse by the parents. I mean, this is just totally asinine and ridiculous. They're trying to take focus off of the Biden administration because they've already been a success. Look what they did with COVID. Now they're trying to do with infrastructure. They're trying to take the focus completely away from what the current administration is doing to protect and help the country.
It's very reminiscent of 2004 when all the state legislatures tried to pass anti-marriage bills for the gay community. It was its own pandemic of hate and discrimination, and we're seeing it all again. It's like they have nothing else to fight against us with, so they're going to install all the fear that they can and every avenue that they can think of. We just have to remain vigilant. And as we said before, in 2004, this is a measure that they recognize that the right things are going to be happening for the right people. And that's equity and equality and acceptance of everyone. I hesitate to use the word acceptance because that still gives power to somebody. I can choose whether to accept you or not. It
Just
shouldn't even
respect
do
them.
that. You just acknowledge me as a human being and let me live my life. That's just pretty much respect who I am, where I stand. You don't have to agree with me. Just let me be. Let me live my life.
As Judy mentioned, you had the anti-marriage bill, and then that died out. And then it went to the bathroom bills. Well, to take focus off of everything else that was wrong with the Trump administration. Well, that didn't work. So now they're trying again to put pressure on the trans community through the athletes and other bills for transition, whatever it might be. It's just a continuous fight to get the focus off of what the fight should be on.
Equality. The way we can do that, we need to support our congressmen and senators to get the Equality Act through. So all of you, please contact your representatives and let them know the Equality Act is crucial to our safety and progress.
And also with your state legislators and the governors, get on their butts about these voter suppression bills. That is just totally asinine. We should be thrilled with the fact that we had no fraud, and we should be using that and promoting that around the world. Instead, we're going the other way.
We're passionate about our opinions, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I'm so glad. Thank you for bringing up our trans youth and our trans community, because I transitioned back in the 80s, as a kid. And if my parents had tried to stop me, I would have run away. It had nothing to do with my parents or teachers or anyone. This is who I am. And we know at any age who we are, and when a child knows who they are, we should embrace them for who they are and let them express themselves, as long as they're not harming anyone, and nobody should be harming them. Right. And so thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, Jamie.
The thing that really upsets me is they're talking about transitioning athletes for women athletes. They're not saying anything about those transitioning to be male and possibly athletes. They don't even mention that. What's the difference? Leave them alone.
Yeah, there's such an extreme level of ignorance. It's just unbelievable. Willful ignorance. And it's not like
Thank
any
you.
of these things are new, right? It's been here forever, only now we have the language to talk about it.
Uh-oh, we have trouble now.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I think they covered the question that I was going to ask about what we can do to support marginalized communities, and they've kind of touched on that, but I'm sure we can always do more.
Well, none of us are just one thing, right? We're all something else. We're human, we're female, male, trans, lesbian, gay, people of color, different religions. None of us are one thing. So fighting for all of the marginalized communities is really the only way to go.
If we have equal rights, we have equal opportunity. And that's the thing. Jeff had mentioned the fact that NAGLREP is really pushing to help the LGBTQ community on the realty side. But you got to remember, if we support all the LGBTQ and the other marginalized communities, that gives them a chance to succeed. When they succeed, what do? They either buy a house or they upgrade to a bigger house. So what goes around comes around. So you help them and they end up helping all of you.
I think you'll agree that when we began to talk about how much money the gay community actually contributed to the economy, people began to pay more attention, listened with a different ear.
It was what, $1.7 trillion? Something like that, I believe.
Right.
The last numbers I heard.
Yeah. So wanted to circle back on something that you just mentioned, Judy, that acceptance still gives power to somebody else, right? And that is very powerful. I really like that, and thank you for saying that. I'm obviously now I'm learning something too. I learned something back when I was younger, when I was listening to radio, and a host said, we're not fighting for tolerance, we're fighting for acceptance. Because when you tolerate something, well, you tolerate ants at your picnic table, right? You don't want them there, but you tolerate them. But now when you put it in that perspective of, well, we don't want just acceptance, because acceptance still gives power to somebody else. So that's very powerful, and thank you for that. And I also want to touch base on the pie issue here. People think that we only have a limited amount of pie, right? And so that's why I always tell people is, one, we bake more pies, or two, we don't look at it as pies. We look at it as the ocean. Equality is like the ocean. If I get my bucket and scoop up equality, it's not going to run out. The opportunity is not going to run out. And so anybody out there who's listening in, don't be afraid, because your opportunity is there, and you being successful is only going to help other people be successful. And that's one thing I want to tell anybody who's watching this too, is we have a great opportunity to make a difference, and to we're in a very great profession, right? We impact people's lives. We can make good money if we want to, but what do we do with that? We gotta help those who don't have the equal opportunities as we do. So speaking of that, what can organizations like NAGLREP do to further the cause and help make a lasting positive change for the LGBTQ plus community?
Well, you don't have to even participate in a national sense. Your local communities all have their own particular issue, whether it's homelessness or the hungry, and particularly right now with COVID. This is a disaster, tragedy that only can be helped with community participation. But even before COVID, there was community centers that needed your time and attention and your money. Gay kids that are still being kicked out of their homes. Homelessness is an issue, and not just gay kids.
It's families now because of the COVID issues.
Right.
They lost their jobs.
Food insecurities, people looking for work, losing their homes, can't pay the rent. I mean, just look around your local communities. You can make a huge difference just by participating with your time and efforts where you live.
And you got to remember one other thing in your local communities. What happens with your local communities if you hold your local officials feet to the fire on issues? That changes the community. And if you do that enough, and if you use that, you can have those people get elected to the state legislatures. And the state legislatures can make changes for the state. And some of those state legislators eventually go national. So there again, you are working to change what happens from your local community to the state and then nationally. But you have to support, you have to know what the issues are, and you have to force your local communities to fight for and actually do those issues.
Run for office.
Please, especially the women. We have too much testosterone.
Yeah.
When I see 5 white guys telling the women what they're going to do about pro-life, pro-choice issues, I really get upset. It's none of my business as a man.
Agreed there. You know, I don't tell people how to fix their cars or jack up their trucks. So, you know, because I know nothing about that. And so I don't do that with women's rights or trans rights or anything, because that's not my issue, but it is still my fight. And so thank you for letting us know how we can help with the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Coy.
And with that in mind and some final thoughts, we wanted to make sure that we end on a high note. So here are a few lighter questions. And the first is just to say that we feel you've been such an inspiration to so many people, and we thank you for everything you're doing. Who are your role models in the fight? Who inspires you?
Well, since I was here, Dennis had to go back to work. I'm a product of the 60s. We both are actually, and kind of remember it. We think we were there. So I was in love with Representative Lewis from Georgia. He was such an amazing individual, tasked with such, I don't know, such difficult issues, and overcame them all, and just became everybody we wish was our uncle, or, you know, our neighbor, our best friend. He's an amazing individual. As a woman, I had this thing for Bella Abzug. I don't know if anybody out there is old enough to remember her or knows about her story, but she was like, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to be, and it's not right that you're going to treat me differently. Governor Richards in Texas, just so many strong women who were individuals all over, who were more than anybody thought they could be or should be. And they were my role models. I met so many really wonderful leaders in the gay community after we lost Matt. And I just, you know, they were such a help to us. So it's just anybody who steps outside their comfort zone, to me, is someone really to look up to.
And my biggest role model was my dad. He was a big outdoorsman. He was a construction worker, oil field worker, 8th grade education. And he made sure all his kids got through high school and they're all successful. They all have degrees. And he kind of set the standard that I expect you to succeed. Because he came from the Depression era, and you had to, that's why he quit school. He had 6 brothers and sisters that he had to help. He went to work to help his parents do that. So, and then after that, since we lost Matt, it's been Judy.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well,
That's beautiful.
I went back to Saudi for 12 more years, and Judy stayed here and started the foundation and got it going. She had her own thoughts and ideas of what she wanted to do and how she wanted to get there. And to have somebody who's a 15 on a 10 scale introvert go out there and make the changes that she's made and continues to make, it's got to be her.
That's beautiful.
Very nice.
Does that mean you're going to cook dinner instead of me?
Okay. I guess I'll add my dad to that list as well as Dennis's dad. My dad was a Democrat in Wyoming forever. It's like, oh, yay, a Democrat in Wyoming. That is an accomplishment.
Yeah, when we used to leave to go speak, the other Democrat was scared we weren't coming back.
It's not like we're the only ones. It's like 12 of us.
Yeah. It's the reddest of the red states.
Yeah.
Definitely know what you mean. Yeah. Because my, like I said earlier, my partner is up there, and you know, even if you are the lone Democrat up there, you are making a difference in all of our lives. So thank you so much.
Well, you know, that's one of the good things that Facebook does, right? After the election in 2016, Democrats across Wyoming began to form together on Facebook, which they had never, you know, there's like 5 in this town and 5 in that town. And the towns are all so tiny that you're a little reluctant maybe to talk about your political leanings, but it gave everybody an opportunity to have a voice. And that was one of the good things that Facebook does.
Definitely. My partner's grandmother was the senator and mayor and judge of Midwest Wyoming, and
Wow.
as a Democrat, so very tight down there.
That's cool.
One of my best friends, a fraternity brother, was from Midwest, and he used to tell me stories about, if you don't know what Midwest is, you have to come out there. It's an oil field that started in the 1890s and basically supplied all the oil for 2 world wars, the Korean War and the Vietnam War, and it's still going.
Yep.
Interesting. So media plays such a big part in our lives, of course. And, you know, on a lighter note, what are your favorite shows with LGBT representation? Just curious to hear.
Because I missed all of the 90s and all of the first, I was in Saudi for 18 years. So there was no TV really or anything. So I didn't get involved, but Judy did Will and Grace and stuff. But since we got back, I got hooked, and I can't wait for the 3rd season of Pose. That has just been an outstanding show.
Yeah, I used to talk about Will and Grace, which was, of course, before all the good things legislatively, legally began to happen for the gay community. I would just say, you know, everybody knows a Jack and everybody knows a Will. Yes, stereotypes, but still, they're in your living room every week. You're getting to know them as real people. And I thought that was just really, really amazing. And when Ellen came out, and, you know, popular culture has a huge impact on how people view things they are unaware, they don't have exposure to. Like Wyoming is 96% white. So anything that deals with the culture outside of ours is a learning experience. Even if it's somewhat stereotypical, it's still a learning experience. Now there's awful stereotypical, I give you that. But there's also ones that is, well, a friend of mine used to say, there are stereotypes for a reason, because stereotypes exist. So, you know, take everything with a grain of salt, but popular culture has been huge in opening people's eyes in regard to the gay community in particular.
One of my favorite ones still, I can still watch every show and enjoy it to this day, is All in the Family. Because nothing was sacred in All in the Family. And the things that he talked about, you know, it's a hoot still to watch. If you haven't seen all, you have to watch All in the Family. I mean, you talk about somebody who is stubborn, pig-headed, racist, everything. It's a hoot. He was women's rights, everything. He didn't like any of it.
Anybody who watched saw themselves in any of the characters on All in the Family.
I just want to do a quick plug for my favorite show right now, which is Schitt's Creek.
Oh yeah.
And
we're doing season 6.
Yeah, and that's a great show, because it's one of the it's probably the first show where it shows a LGBTQ plus community relationship that did not have to go through a struggle, and it was just normal. You know, it was just everyday life.
Yep, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. I'm so happy they're being recognized now.
Well, that's our agenda. Any final thoughts? Anyone, anything on your mind for Dennis and Judy while we're here?
We can't wait to see you again. We love you. And hopefully we'll meet in person again soon. And everyone watching, please reach into your pockets and donate whatever you can to help the Shepard Foundation, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Well, thank you for the support. We couldn't do what we're doing without your support, not just monetarily, but the fact that you're out there in public being yourselves, because you have to remember there's no difference between the straight community and the gay community. They get up, they go to work, they come home, they have families, they have jobs. They're both boring. And that's the most important thing. You're not all wearing feathers and boas and a thong and running through the streets. You're just dull, boring people. And once they understand that and they find out you're the neighbor or a part of the family, then it opens eyes and it helps bring the equality that we're looking for and that we should have and that you should have because you're an American citizen.
And remember, glitter is bad for the environment.
We're not that boring, Dennis. Oh, yeah.
Erase hate, always.
Erase hate.
Oh, yes, plug.
I love it.
Thanks,
I
everyone.
really love it. And thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Oh, such a pleasure. And, you know, I will say on a final note, we just announced our national conference, which will be September 21st to 23rd in St. Petersburg, Florida. And that will be our first live event in a while. And we are going to soon announce that portions of all proceeds will benefit the Matthew Shepard Foundation.
Thank you,
That's
Jeff.
very kind. Thank you
That's
so
very
much.
generous. Thank you.
A
Thank you
pleasure.
again.
A pleasure. You're near and dear to our hearts, and near and dear is exactly how I would define it. So, yeah, it's great to share this time with you. You know, time is you know, our greatest value these days. Our greatest just, you know, it's all we have, time. So, you know, who you share it with, I think, is most important. And to share this time with you has, I can say, truly been a pleasure. And I'm sure I speak to the rest of the panelists and anyone else who enjoyed this.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
safe
you.
year, everyone.
Thank you.
Watch out for the unmasked crazies.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you, Jeff.
Can't wait to get a big hug out of all of you.
Yeah.
Big hugs.
That's what I'm missing.
Okay, thank you again, and wishing everyone a nice evening. And we'll be in touch soon.
Look forward
Thanks.
to it.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.